Hey guys, it's Carly from the Poetry of Nice, and I'm here today to go ahead and show you guys how I list on Etsy. This is just my process. It's all to do with my preference and how it kind of works best for me. So it's by no means the best way or the right way or anything like that. It is just how I happen to do it. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and get stuck in. So this is the item I'm going to kind of talk you through how I would list on Etsy today. It is a vintage Christmas mug. And so the very first thing that I will do is I will take the pictures of my item and I'll take them with my iPhone and I upload them. I have OneDrive on my phone. I go ahead and upload them to OneDrive, or they do automatically, I should say. And then I come over to my laptop and I go onto my camera roll on my OneDrive, and here they are. These are the images unedited of my item. So what I'll do, click on them. I'll download it. I download it all to my desktop, and this is how they would be. So this is after I've edited. What I do is I go in, I crop a little bit. I will say on Etsy, you need to be careful with your cropping. You need to leave substantial space around your item. Etsy is a little funny with the dimensions of their images sometimes. So you're going to want to leave some breathing room there. I brighten just a little bit, and sometimes I will up the contrast ever so slightly, but I'm very careful with that. I do not want to misrepresent my item or the coloration of it. So here is my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 images of my item. There's only 5 images that you can put on Etsy, which, you know, can sometimes feel like a bit of a hindrance, but got to get creative with it and work with it. Okay, so I've already filled this out, but I'm going to talk you through each area and show you exactly what I do and why I do it. This is a new listing, as it were. So very first thing I'll do is go over here and I'll upload the 5 images of my item. I have a little bit of thought behind how I set out these images. As you can see, I kind of do my best to tell a story, as it were, of the item. So what I'm doing here is taking images that kind of wrap around the item, show it from a slightly different angle to highlight this green interior, and then here is the informational bit at the bottom, showing the brand and where it's made and sometimes the year as well. Okay, so here's my images. The very next thing that's going to come up here on my listing details is my title. So the nice thing about Etsy, even though you have 5 images, you have a lot more characters to work with in your title than you do on eBay. And, you know, some people like to still keep it really minimal, just, you know, vintage Christmas mug, Potpourri Press, 1989, done. I do not. I like to utilize all of those characters. It's a personal preference and it's just what I do. As you can see, this is my title here. As you will type it, you'll see it pop up here as well. So here is my thought process behind that. I will go informational first. So it is a vintage Christmas mug. That is what it is. That's what's going to go first. The next is my product information. So there's my year here. Here's my brand. And here is another sort of statement of what it is. So this is where it gets interesting. What I want to do is I want to make sure SEO wise with each item that I'm listing is I'm trying to reach as many audience members as possible that would be searching for an item like mine. So having said that, when I list on Etsy, here is my listing page. I always have a second page open on my web browser for Etsy, just anywhere, you know, just on the website in general. And what I'll do is I'll basically cross-reference the keywords I'm using in my title description and in my tags. What I mean by that is, if I'm wanting to think of a way to describe my item, I'm going to start typing it in this Etsy search box here. So I'm going to start saying vintage Christmas. So I'm already seeing some suggestions, right, pop up here for different things. So I'll keep it going to see what comes up. So for instance, I know that I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, what am I going to use to describe this? Well, vintage Christmas decorations is something that pops up a lot. Ceramic coffee mug. So I'm thinking, how am I going to describe this? And I'm thinking, okay, so we know that coffee mug exists, right? Here it is, pops right up. That means it's a commonly searched for term because it's auto-generated here without me finishing the title. It's telling me that people search for that often. So I'm also thinking, how else can I describe? Well, I know it's a ceramic product. So is it going to be a ceramic, it could be ceramic mug, right? There it is. It could be ceramic coffee mug. It's showing me that as well. It could be ceramic coffee cup. It's generating that too. So what I'm going to want to do is sort of narrow down on those search terms and select one that I think works best for my product, but it's also something that people are frequently searching for on Etsy in order for hopefully my item to rank fairly high when they search for items like that. So, for instance, another way that I've decided to describe this is retro Christmas winter scene. So I'm going to go ahead and check, make sure that those are things that pop up. Retro Christmas. Okay, so I know that that's something that someone is potentially going to search for. It's not a completely alien search term for Etsy. And so again, winter scene. Yep, that pops up there. So I know that that's something that has a chance of being searched for fairly frequently as well. So these are the things that I've decided to use to describe my item. The next thing I do is I go to the About This listing. So here are your options. If you made something yourself and you're a handmade seller on Etsy, it's totally different for you. I am not. I'm a vintage seller. So I'm going to come down here and say that another company or person has made my item. I'm going to say it's a finished product because it is not a supplier tool to make anything, and I'm going to go ahead and say it's from the 1980s since it's dated on the bottom as a 1989 product. If I do not know the exact year, which sometimes happens, but I'm certain that it is vintage and therefore eligible to go on Etsy, I'm going to click on before 1997, which is the cutoff date for Etsy's vintage criteria. And it's still going to pop up here and say that this item is vintage. But I know it's 1980, so that's where I'm going to go with it. Category, lots to pick from here. Home and living, kitchen and dining, drink and barware, drinkware, and straight to mugs. So that's pretty simple when it comes to mugs. Sometimes you're going to find yourself going through there and trying desperately to locate where your item should belong category-wise. That's okay. Just play with it. You will learn the paths through the category maze, the labyrinth that is trying to define your item on Etsy. And eventually it will become second nature. So don't be intimidated by that by any means. My price, it is comparable to products like it, specifically this design. Sometimes I cross-reference as well on Google and eBay if I really feel like I need to make sure of an item's value. This I'm pretty confident with, and that is both comparable for what the item is in general in the market, and also how it sits in the market in my own personal shop for the other prices on the other mugs, I should say, the other vintage mugs that I have there for sale. Okay, and the next is description. So I will say this. Again, a completely personal note. I like to use the very first, one or two little descriptors here, down here in my description. That potentially is an SEO thing as well, and you'll notice that down here in my tags I like to go ahead and use these terms in the first of all as well. I like to have those things lined up. Some say that it does help with SEO, and I'm willing to try that. That's totally fine, and that is just my way of doing it. That is my process. Okay, so you can do what you like with description. Here's my thing. I like to try and keep it short and sweet. I like to have all my information in there, but I also like to have it be a little more talkative and a little more expressive than I would do usually on eBay. So, for instance, this is what I've got. I've got my facts here: vintage Christmas mug, 1989 Potpourri Press, ceramic coffee mug. Then I have a little bit of kind of fluffy description, if you will, trying to appeal to the buyer. So this gorgeous vintage Christmas mug has a stunning deep green interior, it's a fact, and a joyful winter scene design wrapping all the way around. Lovely images of children playing in the snow, families choosing Christmas trees and wreaths, and a sleepy yet festive dog snoozing in the snow. The perfect vintage coffee mug to keep your drinks warm on those cold winter nights. So I do that because that's just kind of the ethos of my shop. I like to rescue old things. I really like to find these things that I think are incredibly cool and maybe ever so slightly forgotten, and sort of reunite them with people who are really, really going to appreciate what they are and where they've been. And so, yeah, so this is how I write. I genuinely care about the majority of the pieces in my shop, and hopefully that comes through in my descriptions. I don't know, we'll see. Okay, more fact here. My measurements, I try and put that in for every single item, simply because that's good. When you sell online, you've got to get as much in there as you can to help the buyer envision what exactly they are buying. Good vintage condition, no cracks, chips, cracks, or stains, a very heavy, substantial mug. Please see photos. And then I always do this. Interested in more vintage holiday items. This is in my holiday category in my shop. This here is my shop categories. I've come up with all these. This is how I have decided to organize my shop. And because it's a Christmas mug, it's going in my holiday category, holiday section. I do this because number one, there's potential there for a buyer to go ahead and search a little further in my shop, see if there's something else that they would like in addition or instead of this item. It's also fairly good, I believe, for my Google SEO. Having an internal link, inner link, doesn't hurt anything, basically. So I try and do this all the time. I try and have this little paper trail for buyers to go ahead and explore my shop and my inventory as easily and as much as possible. Okay, variation does not apply to me because my stuff is not handmade. I don't have any different options to do with color or size. So variation is not my thing. I always do calculated shipping. I do have some of these pre-set up that I did, like flat rate boxes and flat rate envelopes and things, but I basically always do my calculated shipping. So what I do is I have a postal scale next to me right here where I sit. I weigh all of my items, and I have pre-weighed all of my postal boxes. That's including priority mail boxes that I get free from the post office sent to my house, and also some boxes that I have and envelopes that I bought myself for first class items. So what I do is I weigh my item, and I have already pre-weighed, so I add on the weight of the dimension of box I know that I'm going to need. I know I'm going to need a 777 because it's a mug and the size of the mug fits with that. So I think the mug weighed like, oh my goodness, 14 ounces maybe. So here we go, 1 pound 2 ounces, the total weight after packaging of my item. Down here, tags, 13 tags that you can use on Etsy. I use every single one of them, and you should too. Do not waste a tag. So like I said, my first few are going to coincide with the beginning of my description and the beginning of my title. That's just how I do it. It's a preference. It's potentially good for SEO, and why waste an opportunity for making SEO work for you on Etsy, right? There's a lot of buyers, so you got to stand out any way you can. And then what I showed you with my title, how I double check all of the sort of keywords and whatnot and phrases, I do the exact same thing with tags. If I'm trying to think of something to say, I will find a way to word it that it comes up and auto generates here, so someone somewhere has searched for it in a manner that is fairly frequent, if that makes sense. So if I'm trying to say it's a holiday item and I cannot find a way to word it, I will play with words until I find a way for it to pop up. That's how I came up with, say, seasonal decor, retro Christmas, all these different things, winter scene, vintage Christmas. Sometimes you'll see some repetition happening, so vintage coffee mugs, vintage coffee cups. I have repeated this because these are both frequently searched for terms. And I don't want to miss out on one. I don't want someone to be looking for a vintage coffee mug but happen to have written vintage coffee cups and therefore miss out potentially on my item ranking high for them. I also be careful of pluralizations. If there's S's, I do go back in and make sure there's an S or take it away if in fact there isn't one, throughout my title, description, and tags. And I play with the way that words go around as well. Sometimes you'll get coffee cup vintage. It just depends what people are searching for. Have a play and just pay attention to those little details. My materials, I know it's ceramic. I'm going to put it there. And then that is it. I have another once over. I always proofread. That is a full Etsy listing there. And then I publish, which is always exciting. So then if I go to my shop, I can see it in action. Where are you? There you are. And this is the final listing all put together there. I've got my shipping and policies here. Here's my whole description. I can flick through all of my nice photos there that seem to make sense visually to a buyer, I would hope. And I'm pleased with that. I always go and take another look at the listing, make sure that everything worked out okay, no spelling mistakes or anything silly like that. And that's it. Okay, I really hope this video was helpful. Etsy is so much fun as a platform to sell on, and I really urge you to give it a go. Any questions or comments, please throw them down below. I'd be very happy to help. And if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe for some more stuff. I'll have more haul videos, more sales videos, and some more Etsy stuff coming up. Okay, thank you guys so much, and I'll see you later. Bye.